What toxic tradition almost destroyed you? When I was 8 and my little sister was born, I looked directly at her face and my mother slapped me so hard I saw stars, screaming that my days of looking at other people were gone forever. Those were the last eyes I saw for 12 years. The eye contact rule wasn't new in our family. It came from the cult my parents belonged to. The rule was that only the youngest child could look at people's faces because direct eye contact transmitted spiritual energy that older children would contaminate. I had 2 older brothers who had never looked directly at me because I'd never been alive when they were allowed. They'd been forbidden to look up since before I could remember. Mom still looked people in the eye because she was an only child, but Dad hadn't seen anyone's face since his younger brother was born 30 years ago. Mom loved having this power over him and would force him to kneel while she talked so he couldn't accidentally glimpse her face. When Grace was born, Mom explained the new rules. You've had 8 years of seeing faces, and now it's her turn to receive everyone's spiritual energy. Big girls don't need to look when they have a baby sister to protect. She told me that if she ever caught my eyes above ankle level again, she would burn them out with bleach to save my soul. She made me wear a leather collar attached to a chain for the first month, yanking me down whenever my head started to rise. My older brothers watched the floor in sympathy. Overnight, I became another shadow person, while Grace became the family's little son. I understood now why my brothers moved so carefully, why they'd memorized every inch of our floors. Mom homeschooled us to hide our family's spiritual discipline, but Grace got to sit at the table like a normal child while the rest of us sat on the floor, forbidden to lift our eyes above her feet. Mom would test us constantly, dropping things to see if we'd instinctively look up, and beating us if we did. She convinced me that Grace would go blind if I looked at her, showing me fake medical charts about spiritual energy theft. I became obsessed with keeping my eyes down, terrified that even a glance would steal my sister's sight. Grace grew cruel with her power. She'd stand on chairs to force us to crane our necks further down, would deliberately spill food on us to see if we'd look up in anger. She'd describe our own faces to us incorrectly, saying, "Your nose is so crooked," or "That birthmark looks like dirt," knowing we couldn't verify or defend ourselves. She was 6 when she started making Dad cry by describing how old and pathetic his downcast face looked from above. Watching my father's shoulders shake while he stared at the ground, unable to even see who was tormenting him, broke something in me. We were all prisoners to a 6-year-old who delighted in our submission. I hadn't seen my own face in 4 years, didn't know if I was pretty or plain, couldn't even remember what color my brother's hair was. One evening during dinner, I watched Dad's tears fall onto his plate while Grace laughed about his ugly crying face. Something inside me snapped. I raised my head and looked directly into Grace's eyes for the first time since she was born. "He's your father," I said, staring straight at her shocked face. The effect was catastrophic. Grace started shrieking, "I'm going blind! I'm going blind!" while clawing at her eyes dramatically. Mom lunged at me screaming, "You're stealing her light," and dragged me to what they called the darkness room, a windowless basement cell where rule breakers were kept in pitch black to reset their spiritual vision. I'd seen my brother carried out of there once, his eyes so sensitive afterward that daylight made him vomit. For days I sat in complete darkness, starting to believe maybe I really had hurt Grace with my selfish need to look up. Grace started wearing dark sunglasses and stumbling into walls dramatically, claiming my eye contact had stolen her sight. She'd grope around the house like she was blind, knocking things over and crying that she couldn't see her toys. The cult community mobilized, bringing spiritual healers who confirmed Grace's fading vision after she failed their tests by pretending she couldn't see flashlights or count their fingers. Mom organized prayer circles where they'd chant for hours about restoring Grace's stolen light while I remained locked in darkness. They forced my brothers to sign statements that they'd seen Grace's eyes go dark the moment I looked at her. They brought in children from other cult families to testify about siblings who'd gone blind from unauthorized eye contact. Mom started preparing for a purification ritual that involved actually putting bleach in my eyes to prevent me from ever stealing spiritual energy again. I started believing maybe I really was evil when my oldest brother, who hadn't looked up in 15 years, risked whispering to my feet through the door, "Just look down and it all goes away." Even he thought I was wrong, but then someone ended it all, my father. He came to the darkness room one night while Mom was upstairs, purifying Grace's eyes with some ritual, and for the first time in my life he looked directly at my face. "I'm done," he said, and I saw his eyes were brown like mine. He'd been secretly documenting everything and finally found the courage to look up and act. Police arrested Mom when they found the basement cell and the bleach she prepared. Dad's evidence shut down the whole cult. I still instinctively look down when meeting new people, fighting 12 years of training.